Good evening and welcome. This is the December 11th meeting of the Carpenter Unified School District Board of Education. We have 3 new board members with us tonight, and in order for them to be seated officially, we need to start with an oath of office. So I'd like to invite Jamie Bray, Andy Schaefer, and Sally Green to join me at the podium so I can administer the oath of office. You don't have to leave. Just want to sit down. I'm going to stand right there, right? Okay. In order to swear you in, I'd like you to take the following oath, and would you please now raise your right hand? I state your name, do solemnly swear.
I, Sally Green, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you. Congratulations to each of you. Thank you. Thank you. We may now be seated.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move directly into the election of officers. We are first going to elect a president. I will hand the gavel over to whoever gets elected as president, and then we will move into the election of the vice president and clerk. At this time, I will now entertain nominations for the office of president.
I nominate Andy Schaefer for president.
I would like to second that.
Any discussion?
I just would really, as I said last year, like to see a change. I think it's good to hand the gavel off to different folks. And Roger and I have fully participated in all parts of the process for the last 2 years. And I think it's now time for us to have some new leadership, which involves new folks.
New thoughts, new ideology, and I think it's good to have a new face, whoever that might be.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
It's good to have a new face, whoever that may be.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Thank you, Andy.
I move to nominate Roger Delgado as the clerk.
Oh, I'm not ready yet.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm handing it over to Andy. And now, Andy, would you be kind enough to accept the nominations for the clerk?
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. So I'll begin with the. I'll take nominations for vice president, clerk.
I move to nominate Roger Delgado as clerk.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations? I'd like to nominate Sally Green as clerk.
I'd like to second that.
Discussions?
I think that I welcome Sally with welcome arms, as I do with Jamie. And Roger and I have both served on this committee, or not committee, this board for 2 years, with facing all the challenges and volunteer times and, just putting in a lot of time on this job, and would really like to see some sort of extension of that process in getting to have the position of clerk. So that's where I stand on that. And the fact that that new nomination was just so soundly voted against is clearly disappointing. It feels like for 2 new members of our board, it feels completely disrespectful to vote against each other in such a clear way without even taking the time, even 2 minutes to serve with us. It feels pretty disrespectful.
And remember, a couple of years ago, we were told, no, you cannot be appointed to any title right now. You do not have the experience. That happened 2 years ago.
That's true. When Roger and I were new, we were both advised that as a brand new member of the board, it was not appropriate to serve as the president or clerk on the board. And I think we both respected that and took that on, and I believe previous board members have always respected that and chosen not to serve in a leadership position during their first year in the position.
So I think Sally would be fine in this role, as she's served on the City College Board of Directors for several years and is very familiar with the workings of our community and the education world. So, any further discussion?
I understand that, Andy, but at the same time, college is not a school district.
It is, though.
Well, I mean, age-wise, dealing from kindergarten to seniors, college is beyond that.
I just think it's a sign of respect. If any member of any board, a nonprofit board, a school board, a governing board, senators, look across the board at government. People, when they're brand new into any position, elected position, they're not the ones typically in leadership positions in those offices. It's a sign of respect to the people that have been there and gone before them. It's nothing personal, of course, and it's not, all of us come with, extensive professional histories and experiences, and any of us on this board could be president or clerk. So it's not a reflection of that. I think what we're just saying is, taking that position when you're brand new is it's just not quite following the protocol, and I do think it is disrespectful to the people that have already put in the time.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the appointment of board committees, and I'd like to make a motion here.
You have to do that.
Oh, we do. I just skipped that. Sorry. Okay, I'd like to. Okay, the next item B3 is establish the 2019 regular board monthly meetings.
It's actually item B2.
B3 and on this agenda.
Okay. So it's a newer one? Yeah.
So I'm just going to go down so that I'll recite the. So we're going to establish regular monthly meetings of the Board of Education to be held typically at 5:30 p.m. on the second and fourth Tuesdays of each calendar month. The meetings will be held at the Carpinteria City Council Chamber, 5775 Carpinteria Avenue in Carpinteria, or at the District Administration Office or a school site if needed. Location to be determined by the board. The 2019 meetings are scheduled for January 8th and 22nd, February 12th and 26th, March 12th, April 9th and 23rd, May 14th and 30th. And this is a Thursday due to Memorial Day holiday and council chamber availability. June 11th and 25th, July 23rd, August 13th and 27th, September 10th and 24th, October 8th and 22nd, November 14th. Again, this is Thursday due to Veterans Day. And November 26th, December 17th, and this is a third Tuesday, subject to the new law AB 2449. Okay, can I get a motion there?
That's our move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I just had some questions. So I don't remember things historically being moved due to the council chamber availability, especially since it is possible for us to have those meetings at the district office, as this clearly states. This year we had 2 meetings that seemed to be canceled because of lack of quorum due to that Thursday confusion. And I just would prefer to keep them to those Tuesdays rather than move them to the Thursdays, and move the location rather than the date. That seems to perhaps work better.
The complicating factor is that it's not televised if we move it to the conference room of the district office. So that's why we need to hold it in the council chamber. And yes, it has been in place since we've partnered with the city, that they required that if there was a Monday holiday, that we would be obliged to reschedule our meeting to Thursday. And we agreed to do that several years ago.
That brings me a question. A year and a half ago or so, when we went to this workshop at Anaheim, remember, Maureen? Mm-hmm. There were like probably 18 school districts, and our school district was the only one who didn't have their board meetings at school sites. We were the only ones. And I probably remember, Andy, I have inquired, I have asked.
Well,
probably a couple of times. Why not?
Well, it make the meetings become less available to the public
actually,
if we don't televise them.
Well, this is how I think. I think that we have to represent our kids, parents better at the school sites, because that's where they are used to go. Over here, I mean, first of all, costs money, correct? Or is it free?
No, it costs money to use the site and to get the.
I mean,
and
but that's primarily because we're using the broadcasting system that's here, so we're sharing in the cost that the city. The city put this system together, and they've got the room back here with all of the broadcast equipment. And so if we go to a site, we don't have the capacity to do that.
But matters actually, it's the families themselves, not whether there's TV or because let me tell you this, not too many are watching this.
I think more than you would think are watching this
just
tonight.
Probably 2 or 3 times a meeting per year. But actually, just take a look at the views that the school board meetings get on YouTube. Not too many. Actually, the last few ones, 20, 25 views.
Okay, well, I think we can. That's really not the topic tonight. So we're basically voting on our meetings. If you would like to bring up in the future,
we should
moving the meetings to sites. You have every right to do that.
Probably.
Then maybe
all right.
I move to.
We already have a motion in a second.
Okay, I move to amend the motion to remove November 14th. Those 2 dates. November 14th and May 30th, to table those 2 dates to look at possibly having them at a school site on the regular Tuesday
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll vote on the original motion first.
Well, actually, I made an amended motion.
I
So
know,
it's
but
right.
Robert's rules state that you need to vote on the original motion first, and if that doesn't pass, then we vote on the second, on the amended version. So all those in favor of the original regular...
Can you restate the original motion then? Because I think it doesn't really make sense if I'm amending it and then we're...
But it's not an amendment until the original motion
Right.
does not pass.
Can you read the original motion then?
Okay.
Just restate the original motion?
It's written out right in front of you there, but so establish the 2019 regular board monthly meetings as scheduled, and I already recited the dates.
Okay.
So, and I think you have it written there.
So just to clarify, a point of order. So we're moving to approve those dates, and then if I wanted to amend that to move those 2 dates to a future agenda item.
You've already stated your amendment, but we will vote on the original motion first, and then if that does not pass, we will vote on your amendment.
But we can make a motion, an amended motion, though. It doesn't have to. One doesn't have to override the other.
Well, one has precedence over the other.
Right, but if we pass the first one,
I will ask for a second on your amendment if we do not pass the first.
Well, then if it
But I'm
passes,
making an
then this
amended
will
motion.
die.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm not trying to make a new motion. I'm just trying to amend
No,
the motion.
but we
that
have to vote on the first one, the original motion first, Maureen.
Well, in the past, for the last 2 years, that's not how we've
That
operated.
is how we
here.
voted. Yes, it is. So
We've been able to amend a motion.
All in favor of item B3 as originally stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right. Motion carries. Okay, now move on to B4, appointment of board members to various committees. I'd like to make a motion, the following motion, that the certificated matters, 2019 certificated matters board member representatives be myself and Sally Green, with Rogelio Delgado as alternate. Classified matters, myself and Sally Green, and Rogelio as alternate. 2019 management supervisory and confidential employee matters would I nominate Jamie Bray and Maureen Foley, with Rogelio Delgado as an alternate. 2019 County Committee on School District Organization, Maureen and Rogelio as members, and Jamie as alternate. 2019 Joint City Council Board of Trustee Committee, Sally and Maureen, with myself as an alternate. And then the 2019 Children's Project Thrive, Sally is a board member and Maureen is alternate. And then the 2018 California Network of Legislative Network, School Board Association Legislative Network, I nominate Maureen as board member. So could I get a second there?
I second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this is completely inappropriate.
Correct. I mean,
Every
you're
year, you can't just usurp
control.
total power. In the past, how this has worked, just for the previous,
we go
everybody.
one by one.
since the
No.
beginning that we've
No,
been
I-
here. This isn't. You're not an authoritarian dictator, okay?
It was a motion.
Can
It
I
was a
please-
motion.
can I
It
please
was a
speak?
motion,
Can I
Maureen.
please speak
You may speak, yes,
without being interrupted?
of course.
So every year that I've been on the board, and every year that anyone has been on this school board, it has not been up to one person to make committee appointments, okay? We are a group, we are a committee, we have work and other commitments. Each one of these represents a time piece, and each one is a different time commitment. And so for one person to just dictate who should do each thing is, excuse me, I'm speaking.
Well, Maureen, but so
it's
you can-
completely inappropriate.
so
how it has worked in the past, just to be
You
clear,
can tell us which ones
how
are
it
not
has
available to
how it has
participate.
worked in the past is that we have gone through each one, and people have stated the case on each one. We've also, for people that are new, they've gotten the opportunity to find out how much of a time commitment each one is, and they've gotten an understanding of the scheduling around it, because it's not just an arbitrary, oh, you're on a committee. Like, each one is a different time association with it. And so I just think it's completely inappropriate. And honestly, I would wonder if it's actually a violation of the Brown Act to take each one of these things as a whole big piece, rather than looking at them step by step.
Well, again, it's not a violation.
Not a consent agenda.
Excuse me, it's not a violation of the Brown Act. It is a motion. So what I might suggest as discussion is that we start with, is there any discussion about the first certificated matters, Schaefer and Green and Rahilio? So we understand that certificated matters, that's with the negotiations. So that takes about, that's during the school day, takes about 10 days in the spring. And are any of those three unable to do that and are not interested?
Or maybe the question should be, maybe each person who's been unceremoniously appointed to this post should actually have a chance to speak.
Maureen,
I would love to hear from the people who've been appointed.
Please don't mischaracterize.
As to what, whether they actually want to do this.
It's a nomination.
It's clear that there's been some conversations outside of board sessions in agreement around this. And if not, I'd love to hear from the people who've been just kind of dropped into these spaces, if they have any understanding of what it even entails and if they want to do it, and if they understand the time commitment involved. So I would love to hear from the people that have actually been nominated to do this job.
So seeing as we haven't had any opposition to are you opposed to the positions that you've been, that I've nominated you for?
Honestly, I'm not even, I was so dumbfounded that you were taking the opportunity to just appoint people that I've actually lost track, to be honest. I've lost track of who you think should do what.
And I think remember, transparency, that's basically my word, transparency. And according to this, you're getting rid of transparency.
Please explain that.
Listen, I've been a couple of years on these committees. And I know for a fact, 100%, that you're basically taking me off from being an active member of these committees and rotating me to being an alternate, because I've been critical.
So, Rogelio, I was on this committee for 4 years, and I didn't say that I was being pulled off because of some conspiracy.
I'm talking.
I know you are, but I'm trying to put it in perspective.
Show me respect, and I'll show you respect.
Well, I'm just trying to put it in perspective.
No, that's it. I cannot tell you anymore. That's it.
So I would like I said, I would be really interested to hear what Ms. Green has to say in regard to, first of all, I would like to know if you discussed this with Andy beforehand about him appointing you to this.
On the record.
Just to clarify.
On the record.
No, not Andy. No,
Oh, you did speak to another board member about this?
No.
Okay. And do you could you clarify for me what the position entails?
You know what, Maureen, I started teaching school in 1967. I attended many board meetings in Los Angeles. When we moved here, I attended board meetings here, sat on the City College board. So I think, and was I principal, I think I sort of know what.
So you know how many hours is involved with this particular assignment?
Probably not exactly the hours.
Okay, well maybe somebody should explain that to you before you agree.
I'm also retired, so I have time.
But I think it's really important for you to understand this is one of our most important committee assignments. Not only important because of what you're doing, but because of the time commitment. I mean, it's grueling. And it should be someone not just appointed, but someone who actually wants to do that and is actually interested in that work.
Maureen, it's a nomination.
This is something that you cannot just say, go for a couple of days and then don't show up. No. This is, if it takes 20 days, you show up at least 70, 80% of the time. That's fulfilling your compromise.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a
No,
second.
I think it's really clear, though. I still don't know who you think should do what.
Okay, these are nominations.
Well, we don't do nominations for these. We usually just pick
well,
committee assignments. It's really simple.
It is a nomination.
It is a nomination.
So
It is.
I've made a nomination. So if you'd like me to go down the
Yeah,
list again.
go for it.
So I've nominated myself and Sally with Rogelio as alternate for both the certificated and classified matters this year. For the management,
So maybe I could, I'm sorry.
okay.
I don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
maybe we could stop there, and maybe we could check in with, obviously, you're interested in doing it. Are you interested in the nomination?
I'd be
Are you
happy to do
interested in
that.
it, Rogelio, as being the alternate?
No, not at all.
What are you
Actually,
interested in?
I would leave everything as it's been the last couple of years.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
I'll be more than happy just to. Okay, listen. Negotiations took 16 days last year, right? That's probably, at the very least, 130 hours. I didn't miss one single minute. I was there. That, you know why? Because once I committed to this assignment, to this committee, then I was in 100%. For the last 2 years as a school board member, how many times have I missed?
I'm sorry?
How many times have I missed a school board meeting?
I don't
Never.
know.
In 2 years. That's commitment. Now, with this nomination, basically what you're telling me, you're putting me aside. And if in front of the community, in front of the record, if that's what you want, then that's what I will do.
So
The-
Rogelio, should I have taken that same position you have right now last year? Would that have been appropriate?
No, because the president and the clerk rotate every year. That's just part
No,
of
no,
what
I'm-
happens.
I'm-
That's what
no,
happens. The
that's not what
clerk
I'm
and the
speaking of.
president
I'm
rotate
speaking
every
about
year.
this particular matter.
And the
Maureen.
committees, I feel like, are up to the people who are on them. That's why in the 2 years that I've been on this, not one person. I mean, imagine if I had said, well, I want Sally and Andy to do this, and I want Andy and Jamie to do this, and you guys aren't supposed to be talking about all this and checking in before these board meetings. So it's a little fishy that one person is making all these nominations, assuming that we all want to do these things. It's a little bit fishy. So the best way to get away from that fishiness would be to rescind that motion and let us just practice this as we have traditionally in the past, which is just to go through each thing. People talk about which ones they want to participate in based on their time commitment, and we sign up to the ones that we sign up to, and it's not a big deal.
Okay, so Rogelio has indicated he would like to be on the committee. I would like to be on the committee, and so would Sally. So seeing as Rogelio was on it last year, I felt it appropriate to
I have a
rotate
question.
new people.
Is there any rule stipulating that it can only be 2 members? Could it be 3?
Yes,
Could it be
then
3
it's
members?
a Brown Act violation.
That's a Brown Act violation.
Well, then could one of the people be like like Sally and Roger rotate out every other meeting?
That's the alternate portion of the membership.
called
So if
No,
that-
alternate is just if someone can't make it there and gets
Well,
sick
that-
or something.
so we need
But
to
I'm
have-
saying a more deliberate process. If there's 3, we've never had in the past 3 people interested in 2 spots
so we could
in the 2
entertain-
years that I've been here.
Oh, I was interested in it last year.
I don't remember you saying
Well,
that.
this is what happened last year. Okay, let's just. Actually, these were the exact words. Let's leave everyone on the same committees. And that's what happened. There was no discussion.
No, that's not true.
Yes, let's go.
That's-
We can go back to the tape.
We'd be happy to,
Monica,
Rogelio, but that's not.
Can you go-
not.
Not now.
The other question I had was around the policy subcommittee, why that's not part of this, because we chose that also on the organizational committee.
Right, because we're not changing it until the year has gone through. We haven't been on it for a whole year.
We
have.
chose it on this night, so it actually should be on this committee list.
Yes.
It wasn't on this night.
No, I think it was in January, late January.
Because we had chosen it on this, which meant that our next meeting was in January.
Right. We have
we have a really important policy meeting that I need both of you there, the same people, because we have a meeting this week. So that's why
So
we're not
are you
doing
saying
it.
that you want to move to add it, that we add the
Not
policy
tonight, I don't.
subcommittee onto it?
Not tonight, because I need both of you to continue for this conversation that we're going to have tomorrow night.
So
I also have some questions. Why don't we leave the certificated and
Maureen,
classified
so-
for a moment?
So let's go down the list. And so Sally and I both indicated we'd like to participate. Rogelio, would you like to be the alternate?
No.
Okay. Maureen, would you like to be
Nope.
the alternate? Jamie, would you like to be the alternate?
I'll do it.
All right.
That's for both classified and
Yeah.
certificated? Okay.
Okay, we'll go down to management and confidential employee matters and supervisory. I have Jamie and Maureen. Maureen, would you like to be on that committee?
Nope.
Rogelio?
No.
Okay. Jamie, you're all right?
Yep, I'm fine. Yes.
Sally?
Sure.
All right.
So again, do you see how we're discussing this and deciding? So there's no, like, this is how it should act without there being one grand. You're already going to have to, this emotion can't stand because
One
we're
by
already
one.
making changes. So why don't we just rescind that motion and go through these independently as we're doing now?
So we'll go down. I hate to think that you're not wanting to participate because your feelings are hurt.
Absolutely not.
Well, that's what it
I
seems
do.
like.
I
So,
have the things that are important to me are
Rogelio,
the
would
policy
you like to
subcommittee.
be the alternate?
No, nothing.
Okay. Do you want to participate at all?
No,
No
nothing,
participation?
nothing at all.
No committees?
Nothing at all.
Maureen, would you like to participate in any committees?
The policy subcommittee takes a lot of time. That's a monthly commitment. And I was expecting to see it tonight. I wanted to talk about the city, the joint city committee, which used to meet quarterly, and which I think, Andy, unfortunately, you have no business being on, considering your business is doing work for the city, as
What business?
AIS Construction
No,
has bids in with the Creek project right now.
No, it does not.
And you've never, it
No,
does actually.
It does
so
not.
you
No,
should.
that construction company was sold about 4 years ago, Maureen.
So you don't think you have a stake in that or
No,
any
I have
sort
no
of
stake.
interest in it?
I'm a full-time farmer.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
then, okay. Then
So let's go down to the county committee on school district organization election. I have Maureen and Rogelio down there.
No.
that is an important committee, and I'm happy to serve on that as I have continuously.
Okay. So
But the other thing I wanted to say is did we skip the management one?
I
we
just
talked
did
about that
that,
one.
and you both
So
said you didn't want to do that.
That one I was on last year. We never met. So I believe we should actually eliminate. I mean, let's not
Well,
put
well,
ourselves on committees that don't even meet. That's a waste of
It
time.
may meet. So we need to have the committee.
It's when a matter comes up.
These are called committees.
Yes, but this is not a committee. This is, when these matters come up, then this is the group we discuss with.
Okay, so you're saying in the entire last year that no issues came up that you met with a committee about?
I met with Michelle Robertson. Yes.
Okay, so you left me off of that group.
I don't recall,
Yeah,
actually.
well, so you just said you met with Michelle. You
believe.
didn't meet with me. I was part of that committee all of last year. So if it's right now what we're doing is making committee assignments. Is it a committee or is it just something where you need to meet with the board president?
I believe around these matters, it is just a meeting with the board president.
Well, then maybe we should eliminate it altogether.
Sure, we can eliminate it.
All right.
So that's we already have two big amendments to this motion. So maybe we should just vote on the motion then, Andy, because we've got two
Well,
amendments on it.
We're
and so
going
it's,
down this, so let's keep
Right,
on
but
going,
if
and
you
I'll make
wanna
an
amend it-
amendment.
But you just told me previously that I couldn't make an amended motion, that the
No,
motion
you
had
did
to
make an
fail.
amended motion. I said it couldn't be voted on until the original was
Right,
voted
so
on.
we've got an original motion on the table. I moved to vote on it.
Well, that's not how it works. So
Well,
we're
you're
amending.
you're changing the rules of the game. I tried to make an amended motion earlier, and you said I had to wait till the original motion failed.
Correct.
Now you're saying that we can amend it and change it and then vote on it. So which is it?
We're having a discussion, Maureen. Either we want to discuss this or we don't.
We're actually making changes to these committee assignments, and you're trying to commandeer the whole process, and it's not
I
going
don't
very
know how.
well.
I have spoken very little right now. I think you and Rogelio have spoken, a lot more than I have.
Okay, I move to vote on this then as it stands, which I don't even know what it is because things are so up in the air.
That's why I'm trying to clarify the
But you just said that we couldn't. So do we have to vote on the motion as it stood?
Maureen, I don't know why you're trying to make this more difficult than it is.
Because I just tried to make an amended motion for the last thing that we were talking to. I was just trying to amend a piece of the motion, and you said I couldn't do that. And now you're trying to do the same thing here, and you're saying that we can do that.
I'm not trying to do the same thing here. I'm trying to get feedback and take into consideration the comments that you and Rogelio have made, so that we can. All I did was come up with a nomination list, and then we were going to have a discussion, which we are having, albeit quite circuitous.
So far, we've changed the nominations and we've taken off a committee altogether. So neither of those can stand with the motion that's on the table.
Okay, can I continue down the list, please? Rogelio's indicated he doesn't want to participate in any committee.
No, I'm out of the subcommittee as well. Out.
I beg your pardon?
I'm out of the subcommittee as well.
Which one?
Which one?
The policy
The
subcommittee.
policy subcommittee.
Well, you're still the member until new membership.
Well, let's nominate someone else then.
Well, it's not on the list tonight, so we'll go down. So
County committee.
county committee. So
Let me ask you this, Roger.
Maureen,
Let me ask
Maureen,
Roger a
would you like to-
question. If this were done in a different way, would you be willing to participate in some of the committees? If this motion were
correct.
rescinded
Oh, yes,
and we just went
absolutely,
through these in the
absolutely,
proper way, would you be
absolutely.
willing to rethink your
Absolutely.
participation in some of these committees?
100%, absolutely.
So Maureen, would you like to participate in the county committee on school district organization?
So I move to. I would like to just push this to the table. Then, if Andy, if you want your motion to pass, then let's just do it. I move to vote.
On the original motion?
Sure.
We have no participation. That's the problem. So we're having the
You
discussion.
you made all these nominations, and I just think we should vote on them. Because
we have an hour.
Because you've told us that we can't amend things as we go along. That's what you just said for
No,
the
it
last
is not-
motion.
It is not what I said.
So I move to vote.
Maureen, I did not say that. You're misconstruing the statement I made. We had a motion and a second, and then
Okay. So all I'm asking is that I'd like to make a call to vote, which as you know from Robert's rules dictates that we now need to take a vote.
all in favor of the original motion for committee appointment, committee nominations as originally stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Jamie, are
Aye.
you confused?
Yeah, a little, but I'm happy with the committees I'm on, so I'm good.
We're actually voting on everyone's assignments. So you have to either
Yep.
vote to put everyone on these
You
assignments.
can vote against it
or
and
you
we can have a discussion.
Or you can say no, you don't want everyone to be appointed, and we can just go through these piece by piece, which is what we usually do.
Aye.
So I'm
Okay.
still. I'd like to move to amend the motion now. I move to amend the
It
motion.
passed. It
Okay,
passed.
so can we go through then? And well, I don't. I guess someone will send us an email about which committees we're on.
I'll go through the list.
Well,
for you.
we've already passed this, so it's.
No, but I
it's-
just want to make sure that you're not in the dark here. So certificated and classified matters will be Sally and myself with Rogelio as alternate.
No.
Yes,
No.
that was the original motion.
Well,
And then,
no,
and
I
then
said no.
management and confidential employee matters will be Jamie and I have Rogelio down here.
Well, write me off.
And with myself, I'm sorry. Oh, Jamie and Maureen with Rogelio as alternate.
Write me off.
On the management one?
Yeah. And then for the county committee, I have Maureen and Rogelio with
Write me
Jamie
off.
as a second alternate. And then the joint city council would be Maureen and Sally with myself as an alternate. And then the Thrive Project, I have Sally as the board member and Maureen as alternate. And then the California School Board Association Legislative Network, I have Maureen.
So there is because this has been done in this completely ridiculous way, there is a problem that there is a good chance that people, like I cannot be the alternate for the Thrive Project. And Roger is stating that he
And I
cannot be
respectfully
involved.
withdraw from the subcommittee as well.
So
Okay.
I don't know where that's supposed to stand in all of this. And I feel like, again, we're violating the Brown Act because we've already passed the motion and had our discussion and we're adding bits and pieces
That's
to
fine.
it. So it's not really fine.
It's not a violation of the Brown Act. So now we have the flag salute.
All right. Now we can start our meeting. Everyone stand and join us in the flag salute. Salute, pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you to those in attendance for coming out tonight. I don't think I need to report out on our organizational meeting. I think we did a good enough job there. I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes with corrections.
Okay. Have you let Monica know what the corrections are?
So on section comments, public comment, section E5, they're erroneously listed under public comments on items not on this agenda. And actually all three of the people that spoke were referring to item H3. So it just needs to be moved, however that is. And then as well, the conflict of interest piece obviously applies to item H3. I don't know why they ended up with.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Move on to the agenda and consent agenda. Can I get a motion there?
I move to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
Second that.
Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to remove item D4.
D4. Okay. We'll put that in, I guess, business. All right. This is a roll call. Sally?
Aye.
No, you got to call her by his name.
Oh, me has to call. I'll get it. Andy?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
All right. All righty. Hey, Mari. So we'll move on to item E, public interest reports and presentations, and we have our student here. Welcome.
Hi. Carpenter High School will hold finals next week, and the last day of the fall semester will be December 20th, 2018. The spring semester will begin on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. During the winter break, our winter teams will continue to compete, so please come out and support our Warrior teams. The new science and computer wing are near completion, and by the end of January, teachers will be moving in, and soon we will be enjoying our new science labs and state-of-the-art computer lab. Tomorrow, Love on a Leash will be visiting CHS. The Youth Wellness Connection hosts therapy dogs on campus to help students lessen the stress of upcoming finals week. This was a very successful event last spring. All students are encouraged to come play with our wonderful canine companions during extended learning. The CHS Winter Concert will be held Friday, December 14th at 7 p.m. in the cafeteria.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item E2 in recognition. Diana?
Thank you. So I'd like to begin with the high school, and on behalf of the high school, Principal Corneo would like to recognize the Carpenter High School fall coaches for their commitment to students, parents, and community. At Rincon, Principal Glover would like to recognize Mark Hahn, Ricardo Sanchez, and Rosario Vargas from the CUSD Maintenance Department for taking such good care of the facilities at Rincon High School. Whenever there's an issue, they respond in a timely manner, they're friendly, and they're a big help to the Rincon program. On behalf of the middle school, Principal O'Shea would like to recognize Crystal Hotchner. She's a math teacher for her leadership and initiative in using computers and technology to plan and implement lessons that support student learning. At Canalino in the Family School, Principal Pursoon would like to recognize Nico Lopez. Nico is a special education instructional assistant for his dedication and hard work with our students with IEPs. His endless patience, perseverance, and positivity and love for our students are without comparison. At Aliso, Principal Fox would like to recognize Julie Soto. She's our media tech assistant, and she is helping to bring digital citizenship to all the students in fun and comprehensible lessons. And at Summerlin, Principal Fox would also like to recognize Nicole Hughes. She's our 4th, 5th grade teacher for planning and taking her class to see me for 3 full days.
Great. All right, we'll move on right on to your report.
Great, thanks. So I'd like to continue with some recognition and appreciation. We are so grateful for the office coordinators at our schools who ensure that all families and staff are well served and supported. Letty Garcia at Canalino and Family School, Judy Holler at Summerlin, Chris Karpenko at Aliso, Cruz Martinez at the middle school, Yaneli Elizares at the high school, Veronica Nixon at Rincon Foothill, and Grizel Carmona at Pupil Services. We really appreciate their support and their services at the school site. I also want to share some information about student learning. I wanted to begin with last week was our National Computer Science Education Week, and our students participated in Hour of Code activities, which they really enjoyed. I also wanted to inform you that the California School Dashboard at www.calschooldashboard.org is an online tool designed to inform communities about multiple measures of school success for our K-12 students. The indicators of school success include high school graduation, college career readiness, academic performance in English language arts and math, chronic absenteeism, English learner progress, and the suspension rate. Schools and districts receive one of the 5 color-coded performance levels. That's level 1 to level 5. The lowest level is red, yellow, orange, blue, green. So our goal is to have the highest levels, 4 and 5, blue and green. And then, according to the Department of Education, this year's dashboard included several new features. It's fully translated in Spanish. That version will be available in January 2019. We are evaluating also schools, districts, and county offices that serve all K-8 students on school attendance in that chronic absenteeism indicator. And then our high school is also part of the college career readiness indicator. And there's also a video on that website that can help parents understand what the dashboard means. So now if I'd like you to take a look at our dashboard, which is included in the superintendent's report. I've published for you and also posted on the website the 2018 dashboard as well as the 2017 dashboard. So this year we received our highest rating, blue, on college career readiness at 57.3%, and that was a 9.6% increase from 2017. We also increased in the area of chronic absenteeism, meaning we decreased the actual absentee rate, and which is at a low 8%, and we are evaluated at level 4 at the green. We also were able to decrease our suspension rate. Our rate now is at 4.1%, and that's a 0.8% decrease. And then our graduation rate remained at green because we've maintained the 94.5%, and that is the whole school district. The high school has a higher graduation rate because when the district is, when they do the district calculation, they include all the special ed students that are aged to 22 as well as all the Rincon students. So the high school has a higher rate, but our district still maintaining at 94.5%. The English learner progress was not rated, but we did decline 5% from last year. We're at 69.3%. The ratings that we're most concerned about and the lowest ratings are in our academic areas. English language arts performance is 18.1 points below standard, and it declined from last year. It declined 15 points. And our math academic performance is 34.2 points below standard and declined 3.9 points. So you'll recall that last meeting when we were focused on the improvement plans at each school site, this is their focus area, the English language arts, and math for all student groups. When we take a look at our student groups, the groups that are significantly performing at low levels are our students with disabilities. They both were in the lowest performance area, both in English language arts and math. And we will have a special ed report in February to talk about the interventions that we've put in place to increase the performance levels for the students with disabilities. In all indicators, CUSD performed higher than the California state average, except for the suspension rate and English language arts academic performance. And compared to California statewide average, Carpenter District has more English language learners and more socioeconomically disadvantaged students than most districts in our state. The last area of interest that I want to share with you is the Measure U progress. The Measure U team continues to focus on construction for the Gen 7 classrooms. Construction crews are completing work both at the high school and the middle school. At the high school, they're at the last stages of installation and they're working on the landscaping. At the middle school, they're installing the flooring, and soon to follow will be the landscaping. New furnishings have been ordered for all the classrooms. And then last week, very exciting, the Measure U staff, the KBZ architect Joe Wilcox and Gerardo and I met with a consultant from Paxton Patterson, and that's the first step in designing the engineering lab that will be in place at the high school. And so in the facilities master plan, the original wood shop, which looks like it hasn't been used for years, will be modernized to house the engineering lab. But meanwhile, we'll be using the new Gen 7 classroom. The physics lab will be a physics and engineering lab. And we're happy to report that in the fall of 2019 will be our first cohort of students that will be able to participate in an intro to engineering class as a CTE pathway. So we're very excited about that. And then the next phase for modernization, that planning has begun, and that is modernizing the classrooms at Aliso, Catalino, and Carpinteria High School, and the construction will begin in the summer of 2019. On the January 22nd board meeting, Measure U team will be here to give an extensive update and review of the Measure U projects, you know, where we've been, what the budget has been spent, and what we're looking forward to the next stage of all the projects at all the school sites.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask a few questions about this report?
Sure.
Okay. 15-point decline in English.
Not acceptable.
At the school site plan last week, that's why I kept saying, why are we using the same formula that we had used the previous year? Clearly it's not working.
No, what's not working are the interventions that we used last year. That's what's been changed.
Mm-hmm.
So the goals are still the same. However, what's not worked is what interventions we put in place to increase the performance, and that's what's changed. So that's what we evaluated, is the interventions that were put in place from last year are different than the interventions we're putting in place this year. So our expectation is that we will in fact show improved performance in English language arts in all groups, specifically in our English language learners, because you'll recall last year we did not have a specific curriculum for English language development. So this year we have the, it's a sequenced curriculum that is consistent in all classrooms. Every day for 20 minutes, it's direct instruction in ELD in small groups with trained teachers and instructional assistants. That intervention, specific intervention, will make a difference for the performance on the English language arts CASP.
Wasn't that in place? I mean, my daughter was doing that last year.
Yeah, no, it was not in place last year because we did not have the adopted curriculum. So
They
last
didn't
year,
have-
some teachers
Mhm.
were piloting some strategies, but what will make a difference is that when it's consistent in every classroom with the specific curriculum, that's what makes a difference.
And if that doesn't work?
If that doesn't work, then we'll have to evaluate and choose a different intervention. But it's worked in other school districts, so we are confident that it will work.
And then I'm happy to hear that Measure U will, because I've been asking for that we're going to have an extensive chance to look at those. My request is two things with that review, is just to make sure we have an understanding of where we are with the budget.
Yes.
And also with the state applications.
Yes.
And also to understand what things this new board can have a chance to then give some feedback on and perhaps discuss some potential changes in directions if needed. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, because actually I have questions in the Abbott 3 times.
I'm sorry?
I have questions in the Abbott 3 times whenever she comes for a report of Measure U at the other meetings. Okay, what about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? Are you going to be able to finish them all 100%?
Well, you'll get a chance to ask her at the next meeting.
Yeah, but I want to point this out right now.
Well,
it's Measure U.
Well, no, this is the superintendent's report.
Correct, but Measure U is mentioned there.
Okay.
So, a response 3 times. We have the 90 million bond. We have at least 10 million on state aid, plus grants and scholarships. We will be able to finish all 3 phases,
Yeah,
phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3.
That's a good question.
Period.
And as also just looking at the different pots of money, where those are at. We've talked about, besides the bond, there's state money, there's this and that. I would really like to see an analysis of what monies are being used for which projects and kind of where, attaching the money to the project would be really helpful to see.
Right. With construction projects, there's no this and that, respectfully, and there's no grants or scholarships. There is the bond.
It's on the record. Last time.
Excuse me. There's the bond, there's state money, and developers' fees. Those are the 3 pots.
Oh.
But they will be able to give you specific amounts for those 3 pots.
I'll she mentioned it, so you can
Okay.
talk to Cindy.
Right. Monica, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do. The first one is Elizabeth Perlin. It's already on, so just grab the mic and...
Clearly, I've done this before. Right here. Hello. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you all for your willingness to serve on this board. That's fantastic. And we want to welcome Jamie, Sally, and Andy. And Andy, excellent leadership. I personally know how difficult it is with opposing viewpoints. I run the board at Summerlin School, so I certainly get that. But we all want to welcome you and look forward to a fantastic year. Thanks.
Thank you.
We have Holly Minir.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here as a parent and not a participant. I just wanted to echo what Elizabeth said and welcome Sally and Jamie to the board. We go back a little bit of time. When I was a new principal, Sally met with me and kind of gave me some tips in my role in Carpinteria, and I really appreciated that. And I know you're really active in Carpinteria in various venues, and I appreciate you stepping forward and acting on behalf of our community. And Jamie, I met you, I think, for the first time when you volunteered at the Summerland Winery event to benefit Summerland School. There wasn't any wine there, no. But it was great to get to know you and as in that capacity, but also now as a mom. And I appreciate just your service and you both being here and joining the board. So thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
That's it. All right. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to item E5, the 2018-19 first interim report. And I'll turn it over to Maureen.
Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of an overview initially, probably more than I would have normally since we have 2 new board members and this is a new process. Maybe not to you, Sally, but certainly for you, Jamie. So we're required by Education Code and Assembly Bill 1200 to report to the state at basically 5 different intervals. One is conditional, and it's kind of sequenced. Our July 1 adoption budget, And then we do our unaudited actuals, which is the year-end close. That is certified on or before September 15th. And at that time, and usually before that, we have 45 days to revise a budget once the governor adopts a budget. And those changes are usually included at that time for your approval. We report what we call a first interim, which is budget revisions again, but it is our actuals through October 31st. And it's kind of a checkpoint to say, are we where we should be at this point in the year? And then at the second interim, which is a little more crucial, because that is, again, if there's any major budget revisions, we bring them to you. But that is our actuals through January 31st. And again, that's the most important probably checkpoint that we measure to say, are we in line with our budget that was approved at the last board meeting or at that interim level? And is the percent level of spending in line at that time of year so that we'll end our year solvent at or above or below? That's where we kind of have to check our budget to make sure we're where we need to be. And then in the event, and I don't see that ever happening here at Carpinteria, but I certainly have been involved many times in doing a third interim report, and that is actuals through May 31st. And that's required if your second interim report was certified as qualified or negative, and I'll get into that next. So there's 3 certification levels. There's positive, which means you can meet your obligations and reserve levels in the current and 2 subsequent years, and the required reserve level per the state's 3% for each year. There's qualified, that says you can meet your current level of reserves, but you may not be able to meet it for the 2 subsequent. Let's just say the third year falls below 3%, or both 2 years, subsequent years fall below 3%. That would be qualified. And then negative means not that you don't have adequate reserves, it's that you don't have adequate cash. You will run out of cash to meet your obligations for 1 or 2 of the subsequent years, and that is not what you want to ever do. When you get to negative, that's when the state comes in, the county comes in, the board loses all authority over matters, and it's not pretty. There are actually several districts that are in what they call state receivership, and they've been that way for a decade or more. It's very hard to pull out of once you're there. It's not unusual for districts to be qualified, especially LCFF districts, when they have to make future cuts and they just can't get that 3% reserve. This interim is being presented to you as a positive certification. So this is page 4. So what you have before you is the budget that was approved in September through the unaudited actuals process and the changes that have occurred since that time. And the budget that you got in September was basically any budget changes that happened up until early August. That's kind of a lag in order to get documents ready, closed, and ready for the board. So the budget you have before you now is after all staff have been hired for the beginning of the school year, all positions have been placed since the beginning of the school year. We've done a lot of things, both to revenues and expenditures since that time, as the state has given us information, federal government has posted information. So on slide 4, we're going to go through the changes just to revenues. So the box below identifies all the changes by major category. State aid, which is the LCFF or property taxes, federal, state, and then local. So the changes to our state aid increases all have to do with the money that comes from property taxes and state apportionments. We don't get very much state apportionment. We get a mandatory minimum because we're basic aid. Basic aid means that we get 100% of our revenue through property taxes. That calculation exceeds our local control funding formula. Our adjusted J29P1, J29 is the form that we get from the County of Santa Barbara, certified through the Santa Barbara Education Office, that gives us our property tax numbers. That has decreased by $138,444 from what we adopted in our budget. there's it's very hard to unpack what that exactly is. And I'll go over, I have a slide later that'll go through our property tax history. And then we have a slight increase in our education protection account. That is one of the statutory state apportionments that we get. Federal revenue was adjusted just for categorical awards, and that would include Title I, Title II, Title III, IDEA for special ed, and that went down about $17,300. And understand, whenever you see adjusted, restricted, or categorical revenue, there is a corresponding adjustment to expense. So the only restricted program that affects our unrestricted general fund is special education. All of the others have to self-balance. Revenue has to equal expense. State revenues, the mandated block grant and the lottery adjustments went up just a little bit. Those are to state, both the mandated block grant and the lottery are ongoing state revenues, and it's a calculation by ADA per ADA, and the per ADA amount gets adjusted annually. And then again, some adjustments for categoricals. Local revenue, you'll see the adjustment for categoricals restricted quite high. This is a change. You'll see a corresponding amount in expenditures. Our special ed SELPA, our local plan area for SELPA, has changed the way they're doing their accounting. So normally the revenue would net the expense, and we would only book that net amount in expense. They're requiring the full revenue to get booked and the full expense to get booked, but the net effect is still the same. So you're seeing this increase. And then we have a one-time revenue bump in local revenues as we received CISC money for the Thomas Fire. Some of that'll be the last amount of money we get for the Thomas Fire settlement. So our revenues went up $591,966, but recall that the 510 in large part is just an accounting shift. Our expenditures on the next slide. This is our salaries, benefits, books and supplies, and other operating costs are outlined in the box below. And again, as I mentioned, these are the changes that took place after we had already, after all positions were filled, our enrollment was realized in September, adjustments were made to staffing, and you'll see that reflected here. We did add a teacher at Canalino for kindergarten. We had a couple additional, at Aliso. I'm looking at Aliso and I said Canalino, sorry. We had a couple of sections that were added at the high school for impacted subjects. When we open enrollment in the month of September, it's the opportunity for our staff to enroll in benefits, change benefit plans, and in this particular year, we had an increase of folks that are enrolling, meaning they may have been covered under a spouse. That may not happen anymore, so they're fully enrolling in our plan. We had increases there. Contractually, our teachers who do extended learning through higher education can turn in those units for additional salary movement credit. And that's what you see on that line for $31,267. And then subsequently, we've tried to find places in our budget for savings. We do have an unfilled a vacancy that became open as of November 30th with a retirement. We are not filling that position, so we are realizing that savings, and that's for a grounds 1 position. We received a what they call a low performing schools block grant. It is a new one-time block grant that we got this year, and we shifted some costs, one-time in nature, over to that block grant for some one-time savings this year, and you'll see that $92,000. We did have to purchase additional curriculum this year. We had 2 major curriculum purchases in Wonders, our English language arts curriculum, and in Next Gen, our elementary school science curriculum. And both of those initial orders were not sufficient, and so we had to make additional orders. And then some minor adjustments to contracts for a third-party broker for health and welfare, and then we did some shaving of budgets for our savings of $5,300. And then you'll see down there adjusted restricted categorical expense. That's at high. that offsets that revenue increase you saw. So the net of those restricted programs is very minimal when you add up all the revenue and expense. So the ultimate change to our budget for the unrestricted program will be on the next slide, page 6. And the shift in our budget is a decrease in fund balance of $135,800, in large part due to the loss of property taxes. That's the majority of the loss. Reserves are shown here below at $900,889, and you'll see that again the fund balance has gone down, and that's due to the $135,000 drop. On number 7, you'll see how the restricted and unrestricted budgets look side by side to make up that total general fund. So in the unrestricted budget, you can see, if you go about 2/3 way down the page where it says excess deficiency of revenue over expense, you can see the unrestricted deficit is now $754,531. That is still significantly lower than the deficit we saw at first interim last year. That was over $1 million. The unrestricted is a deficit of $10,000. That's not significant. Now remember, restricted budgets, the $731,000 beginning balance are multi-year grants that come in and get spent through deficit over the next couple of years. So 100% of the money may come in this year. It's a 3-year grant, and you spend it down over time. So that deficit is how you spend down the grants over time. At no time can that fund balance become negative. I do want to point out just above that line, it says contributions to restricted programs. And the general fund moved $4.3 million over to the restricted budget. That is 90% special education. The rest is our restricted maintenance account, which is required to be moved over to restricted side. And then a small part of it is deferred maintenance that has to come out of the restricted maintenance side. So the total deficit on the far right is $765,503 with an ending balance projected at $2.4 million, and the unappropriated is $862. And I'll get to the reserve levels in a minute. The next slide I kind of want to show you, which is kind of significant in managing California budgets. This slide is showing you the change in revenues year over year for a 5-year comparison. And I'll take you all the way over to the orange on the right. Our revenues went down. This is only unrestricted, so none of the grants are in here, 0.3%. And this is in large part because our property taxes in 17-18 had over $580,000 of one-time impounds and one-time increases that don't come back the next year, as well as the fact that since 14-15, the state was giving one-time block grants. So rather than putting it in ongoing money to districts, they said, we'll give you this one-time grant. It may be here, maybe not next year. And it started out well over $1 million in 14-15, and it has dwindled down to nothing. It's less than $300,000 in 18-19, and there's nothing planned for 19-20. So you can see as you diminish the revenues, it's very difficult to keep up with expenditure increases, which far outpace the revenue increases. This year, compared to last, it's only a 0.64%. But if you recall, I know the 2 new board members, whether you were aware, watching meetings, or following, but we went through an extensive budget advisory committee process, and we went through some very significant budget reductions. We had budget considerations of add-ins, but the reductions were far greater. And so we continued to find a way to better balance kind of the inequity of the lack of growing revenues to the increasing growing expenditures. Page 9 shows you the budget in its entirety, and in the green column are actuals through October 31st. So you can see that the revenue we've received at only 6.68% is a much lower amount than what we've spent to date in 26%. The 26% is right in line with where we should be, and the 6% is about what we would see this time of year. And because we're property tax based, those tax payments don't come in until late December, late April, and then the first week of July as a settle up. So we don't get like school districts' monthly apportionments. They come in when the tax rolls are collected. So that's when we, earlier in the year, we approved what we call a TRAN for cash flow purposes, because you can see that the cash doesn't follow our spending. So I wanted to share a little bit of the property tax history and what changed between 1718 and 1819 to kind of look funky. You can see that year over year for the past several years, we've been at about 5.2, 5.8, 5.4, but well over 5%. In 1718, we were 7.3, just about 7.4% more than the prior year. But 530,000 of that tax amount were one-time impounds. So when you pull that out and do a comparison, we're just around the 5% back. So like if you average the 18-19 growth factor of 2.3 and the 7.4 and you divided that by 2, we're about where we should be. It just looks off-centered. So we did receive an increase in property taxes, but it was less than last year overall. So you can see where we normally would get $1 million, we got $1 million, just under $1.5 million. Now we're at 507, and then we kind of in 1920 go back up to a normal projection. So it's just a little bit odd. We do track this. I track this like every minute they give me information. Multi-year at a glance on page 11. So this is where we see our reserve levels and what we're projecting out for the 2 subsequent years. Right now we're at 5.87. 1920 in this projected 1920 we're at 5.85, and then in 2021 7.76. The multi-year projections that are built out here do include step increases, statutory increases, health and welfare increases, property and liability, utility, all the regular increases that we need to build in, as well as any one-time money that we are not sure to get next year in revenue are not in. And any one-time expense in 1819 does not repeat itself into future years. So this is a summary, but there's a lot of work behind this, and I think in your board backup, you have the more detailed multi-year. I want to let you know, though, that in none of these 2 subsequent years are there any monies built into the budget for cost of living increases. So at any time that when we get to negotiating and doing those types of activities, they will be built in at that time, and those numbers will change. And then finally, I do want to make a comment about the multi-year. The 1920 multi-year is built based on reductions of just under 600,000, 588,978. So to get those reserve levels, that's how much has to be reduced in the 1920 budget. The first interim would receive a positive certification without those reductions, meaning we would have 3% in the current and 2 subsequent years without those reductions, but it would take us right to the 3% level in the 3rd year. And it's been a commitment to keep that reserve level between 5 and 10%, and that's kind of where we're trying to work towards. The leadership and the district staff, district-wide, moving forward, first of the year, we're going to start having conversations about reductions. We are going to start the budget study sessions up again, and I've included the dates here that we've got them scheduled here at the City Council chambers, 5:30, and there's 4 dates that we've selected: the January 29th, February 19th, March 19th, and April 30th. So we will be going over the budget in detail and going through all of the staff recommendations and proposed reductions and having those conversations as we go through the committee process.
Great.
That's the first interim.
Thanks, Maureen. That was a very complete report. Any questions?
Yes, just wondering, you built us this kind of rosy picture for the general fund multi-year at a glance, basing it on that $600,000 cut assumption. Do you remember offhand, or it would be, I guess, useful to see at some point the non-rosy picture or the middle ground? Like, it doesn't have, there's always a third way, right? There's the extreme, there's the middle. You know, one option is always to do nothing when you're faced with a crisis, right? So, you know, it's nice that you've gone ahead and done the work to show us that rosy picture. However, $600,000 worth of cuts is going to be an extreme task and realistically may not be achievable. So it would be helpful for me, at least as we start that budget process, to kind of see the middle grounds.
When we get to the committee, you'll see the raw data. And you will also see, I won't be bringing scenarios. You'll see the raw data, and you'll see what will be needed to get at least a 5% reserve level. And understand that that school district budgets are never stagnant. They don't ever get set and they don't move. It is a daily moving, fluid budget. It moves between categories every day as site priorities, as spending priorities change daily. Our revenue doesn't get realized until next July. So we don't ever have an exact picture of where we will be at any given time, which is why we bring interim reports to the board and why we continue to have budget conversations. And it's constant. It's something that is watched regularly, and I'm bringing monthly updates to the board, both on spending and any major budget changes. So
that that $588,000 is about a little over 3% of our general fund.
It's just under 3%.
Under 3%. So the easy way to see what it would look like, Maureen, would be to subtract 3% from those numbers across the board there, and that'll take us down to 2.8, and maybe 5 for the 3 years out. So what's clear is we have to make cuts, mm-hmm. and barring any influx of additional revenues, which may or may not happen depending on the governor.
Right.
New governor, might add. 87% of our costs are associated with staffing, and so that's the natural place to look at cuts.
The other consideration is that in this first interim for the multi-year, we've not included salary increases.
No.
And so if the context is we're already tight and we have to make cuts to maintain that 3%, then you add in on the salary increases. So you want to make sure that you are able to do that. We are facing cuts. So I think that's the other factor that's going to be really important.
I will be going to the new governor's budget workshop, not the new workshop, but the new governor's budget, before the January 29th study session. But remember that we get very little money from the state due to anything that he does. And the talk in Sacramento right now is that there is a slowing economy that's projected over the next course of several years. However, there's also been a lot of advocacy for any new monies to be put into LCFF school districts to boost their per pupil amounts, and we don't fall into that category. We have been fortunate to get the one-time money because that's been across the board to every school district. I don't know that we can count on that mentality because that's going to be up to the new governor.
I also just had a question. With such a giant document that we're only given on Friday, it's hard to kind of plow through it and really understand it. But I did notice that there were some additional fiscal indicators, which have been on my mind as well, which is one is A3, which is declining enrollment. Don't we historically have a declining enrollment?
Yeah, but that does not. So those are indicators that get reported in the state, but we're basic aid. We don't get funded per ADA.
I understand that, but it's just I'm confused because it says declining enrollment A3 is enrollment decreasing in both the prior and current fiscal year, and it says no. So I don't know if that's correct or not.
No. Well, this year we did not decline.
It says The prior and current fiscal year.
The prior and
says-
current,
then
we did
we've-
not decline.
We did not decline in the prior or current fiscal
From
year.
17-18 to 18-19, we did not decline.
No, it says in both. Didn't we decline last year?
It's pretty flat.
Okay.
Because remember,
Anyways,
it's at a point in time. It's not.
Sure. The last thing and it got kind of just tucked into, there's a lot of information here, so it kind of got just tucked in, but one of our cost savings that we were looking at was not rehiring a custodial staff member, and I don't remember ever passing that as a board, a sort of hiring freeze, or, aren't there, I believe there's requirements in terms of union questions around if we have an open staff position, especially for custodial, considering that we have some problems
talking
with
about
custodial services.
It's not custodial.
Grounds position, that's not custodial.
Okay, so but why is that position? I guess the point
We're not
being,
eliminating it.
Uh-huh.
We're not filling it
For the rest of the year.
for the rest of the year.
Isn't that wouldn't that be considered a hiring freeze? No. I mean, you can't just not hire like for instance, if a teacher left or a teacher's aide left, we would rehire that position.
Not necessarily.
So, but there has to be some sort of rationale behind that. What is
No.
the rationale behind that?
The rationale is that we have a significant deficit at this point, and we, in working with the grounds team, believe that the current grounds team can meet the responsibilities of their work with the number of team members they have currently. It is a prudent decision regarding our fiscal condition as well as what's required in the job.
Are you suggesting that we don't look for savings, Maureen?
No, I'm suggesting that if we're making significant changes to our hiring practices, that needs to come from the board and not be just an independent decision coming from the district, and that choosing to, have a hiring freeze might make,
I think you're
might make good fiscal sense, but should be something that is done in transparency and with full appreciation of the board. And I would be delighted to consider that in a future agenda.
Personally, I don't want to be involved in every hire or not hiring decision. That's not our role and responsibility as board members. That's why we have a superintendent and a business officer. All right. Does this need action, or is this a presentation? It does. Okay. So can I get a motion to accept or to approve the first interim report?
I move to approve the first interim report.
Can I get a second?
I'll second the report.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just, again, with all this analysis, it's extremely uncomfortable to have to approve something that I still understand so little on. I've gotten a really good sense of the big picture pieces. However, the three questions that I just brought up seem fairly significant, and I'm not terribly satisfied with the answer. So.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Excellent. Alrighty. We'll move on to item G, educational services. And this is a vote for the recommendation to form an equity task force.
I move to approve the equity task force as recommended.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just did want to read a statement that I had prepared and answer any questions if there are any around this. I know that two of our board members weren't necessarily here for the presentation that I did on it, and I'm happy to revisit the PowerPoint as well. Como todos los distritos de escuelas públicas en los Estados Unidos, Carpintería tiene un problema, la inequalidad. Esa inequalidad se relaciona con una variedad de áreas y evita el acceso pleno e igualitario a una educación de alta calidad. Las barreras de acceso están causadas por las disparidades económicas, las diferencias de idioma y otros factores sociales y culturales. Estas inequidades afectan a todos los estudiantes y maestros en nuestro distrito y tienen consecuencias sutiles y explícitas. Tener un grupo de trabajo de equidad de un año le daría a CUSD la oportunidad de salir adelante de este problema y crear soluciones proactivas para los mayores beneficios de todos nuestros estudiantes, familias y personal. So I wanted to read that in Spanish to make the point that the majority of our families come from families and parents who are Spanish speakers. And yet so many aspects of our district are kind of create barriers to entry just on the simple matter of language. So that's just one point. I'll go ahead and read that same statement in English. Like all public school districts in the United States, Carpinteria has a problem: inequity. This inequity relates to a variety of areas and prevents full and equal access to a high-quality education. The barriers to access are caused by economic disparities, language differences, and other social and cultural factors. These inequities touch every student and teacher in our district and have subtle and explicit consequences. Having a one-year equity task force would give CUSD the chance to get ahead of this problem and create proactive solutions for the greater benefits of all our students, families, and staff. So, in a nutshell, this task force would be a one-year subcommittee that would consist of a variety of a cross-section of our CUSD community. We would be tasked with looking at the various ways that inequities affect our students in a variety of areas. At the end of that 1 year, the subcommittee would then make recommendations to the board for improvements, and the board would then approve or not those recommendations and changes. There would be no cost for this. I think it would be an effective way to envision a more equal and accessible district. It would be a way to include and have people participate in our district operations who aren't involved. Currently, we do not have a representative district right now on the board level, and this would be an opportunity for parents who might not ever see themselves in a government capability having a little bit of a say in terms of their child's education. Equity is kind of a buzzword right now. I get all sorts of California School Board Association magazines, teaching magazines, and all of them talk about the importance of equity. There's been many, many studies. I have them with me if anyone's interested. But the ways in which creating a more equitable school district and school system translates just beautifully into the classroom and into achievement as well in the long term. So this is we're looking at that 15-point decline in English language from last year. We're looking at the way that English language learners are not achieving as high as our English-speaking cohort. So this would be a very cost-effective, relatively simple way to allow our district to possibly implement some small changes that might have a big effect on our overall achievement, which I think is what we all want, right? High achievement. So, and improved access and involvement of all our families and parents. So, I'd love to hear what other people think and answer any questions if I can.
And this is actually what I was talking about probably when was your presentation, like 2 months ago or so. And I agree with you 100%. And actually, my phone, there's an app right there where I could reach with a one click 500 families. 500 families. Hispanic. And actually, who have sons, daughters attending the district. So I'm 100% behind you on this, Noreen.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other
Any
other thoughts? Or I would really love to hear any thoughts or comments on this. Or just like I said, there is a lot of research on this. It's not just I didn't come up with this from nowhere. So I do a lot of reading in the education section of the New York Times, One article was called "Does Teacher Diversity Matter in Student Learning?" Another one was "How does equity relate to the school district?" There was a really cool interactive article that basically talked about or just showed kind of the difference between finances and success for schools. I really want this subcommittee to be a research-based venture, to look at the best research being done right now on literally how do we create better access, and by creating better access, allow for better, more involvement and just more support for the families who need it and the students who need it. So,
great, thank you. No further discussion. All in favor of this creating this equity task force, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
All right. We'll move on to business operation facilities and warrants. Being asked to approve the warrants from the period of 11/20 through 12/5 in the amount of $333,710.44. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the warrant.
Can I get a second?
I'll second the warrant.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
oh, I actually had some discussion.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering, last month's warrant, I know it was sort of a double warrant, but it was around $3 million. And this one was approximately $33,000, I believe. I don't have it totally.
I think it's
333.
I missed a 3. So just wondering about the variations in those. I know that last month was a warrant for the entire month of November, but a $3 million warrant just kind of, as we're talking about deficits and spending.
It included a significant portion of the Gen 7 classroom payments for Measure U. And you can tell with the fund, if you look at the fund object.
It's good to explain it to everyone else.
Yeah.
So if you look on the warrant is basically like the check registry.
Yeah, I've read it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and do you know about the funds with the number? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, well, for people listening
to budgets.
Good. So for people out there listening, the item number, the object number, right, relates to the, okay, you can explain it better.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moves on to item H2. I'm sorry. We need to go to. We'll do this, and then we'll do D4. So H2 resolution 18-838 of the governing board delegation of governing board powers, duties, authority to make cash and budget transfers. Can I get a motion there?
I move to accept resolution number 18-838, resolution of the governing board, delegation of governing board powers, duties, authority to make cash and budget transfers.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yeah, I was just curious about this, so I looked up some other resolutions from other boards involving these kind of powers, which are pretty, it's a big, as a board, we're tasked with only 2 things: controlling money and controlling policies. Those are really our only 2 areas of interest. And so in this resolution, what we're doing is we're basically saying we're going to give our power to make cash and budget transfers over to 2 individuals in our district. We're also saying that if any mistakes are made, that the board is then held responsible for that. So this is a really big challenge. And I looked up how other organizations have worked with it, and they've put some limits on that. I think in an intelligent way to kind of limit the fallout from any possible mistakes that are made. So in one of those, this is from the Pasadena School District. They put some timing limitations, and then they put some spending limitations on the amount. Another one that I saw did the same. And so I was just wondering why wasn't there any kind of, it's a pretty vast authority here. And I understand that at the end of the time period, there's a need to balance the budget and, balance the books, and that involves making delicate decisions. But I was just wondering why we chose not to put any sort of limitations on that.
This is our county form. The county template is used for all the counties in Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
All we're doing is putting our resolution, our school district, and our authorizers on the form. This is the resolution our county is requiring.
And we do this every year.
We do this every year, same form.
And every district in Santa Barbara County goes through the same process.
Yes,
every year.
with the same form.
Right. So do you know why they haven't chosen to put any limits on it?
Because each district trusts their administration with the signatures.
I don't think it's a matter of. I don't think it's a matter of trust.
Yes, absolutely, that's what it is.
So you're saying that these other districts don't trust
I'm
their.
saying they all trust.
No, the other districts
The other
that I've brought examples of that put limitations on
I can't
things.
speak for the other districts. I just know in Santa Barbara County, this is the process. They trust their administration, and the county asks us to go through and have this signed.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, this is a roll call. Sally?
Andy?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Rogelio?
Aye.
And Maureen?
No.
And I'm aye.
Okay, thank you. All righty, we'll move on to Measure U. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
D4.
D4. D4, which is the governance team workshop. Can I get a motion there? Maureen, do you want to make a motion?
I don't have it right in front of me, so.
So I'll read it for you. The board is asked to approve the governance team workshop for all CUSD board members to be held at the district office on January 15th, 2019 from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Cost is $3,500 plus travel cost and will be paid for with general funds. Would you like to make a motion?
I have a comment on that.
We need to have a motion in a second first.
Okay.
Just figured since you pulled it, you'd like to make the motion.
It's welcome to anyone else is anyone else is welcome to make it.
I motion to approve it.
All right.
I second the motion.
Okay,
Have
discussion.
a comment.
Sure.
Yeah, actually. No exception, I cannot make it at 4 o'clock, at 6. So I'll be there from 6 to 8. I mean, that's my schedule, and I won't change it.
Yeah, and that seems a little bit important to make sure that we're all there. So I'm a little. I mean, I understand we're a new board, so it's hard to get. But perhaps now is the time to discuss whether we all can make it.
Well, I'll make a point of making it because I think it's important that obviously we have a lot of work to do to come together as a board. So I think it's very important that we use this facilitator to the best of their ability so that we can start serving our community more effectively.
Well, I make no exceptions.
You make no exceptions?
No, not at all, never. Remember, how many times have you told me to meet with you at 4? I said, I cannot. From 6 and beyond, I can.
So would it be possible for it to be at a different time?
Well, we use the same kind of time with our closed session. Usually our closed session starts at 4:30 on Tuesday nights, so that's why we...
But would it be possible to have it start later on that particular day?
Probably not, because they're traveling.
My concern involves many things. Part of this is, kind of how this came about. And I was actually quite surprised at the cost because I was told on October 30th in an email to Diana that there was no money for a board conference that I wanted to attend. I was told that there was just no money for board conferences. So this is...
Well, this isn't a conference.
This isn't a
right.
conference. This is what the email said is there were no funds allocated for individual board members to attend conferences. However, this was budgeted every year when there's a new board in the school in our school district. We schedule a governance workshop. So we had a governance workshop
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and now we have a new board, and so this is the governance workshop. And it was requested, Maureen, you did request focusing on or including communication strategies several months ago. And when you asked about when is the governance workshop going to happen. And so
Well,
they're going to include that in the workshop.
Right, because in August, I think at least since August, if not earlier, I've been requesting that the board have some sort of visioning session or something like this. If this is just a kind of standard practice, my concern is, here are the notes that we have. Preparation and consultation with the superintendent. Sample government team protocols handbooks to be gathered and provided. Summarized discussion and next steps. I mean, my real concern here is the same concern that I've had for 2 years, which is that as a board, we are not on the same page in terms of our vision for the district. And that's going to make it hard for everybody. That's going to make it hard for this board. That's going to make it hard for our staff and students. And this sort of dry, I guess, and you know, the fact that it's also costing $3,500 when we have plenty of nonprofits in town who I think would be more than willing to lead a sort of leadership training or you know, team building thing. I just find it all a little surprising.
This firm is well known and very skillful in working with dysfunctional boards. So it's not any nonprofit that could come in and work with our board, and it's really to work on basic governance structure, because there seems to be a lot of confusion about how school boards operate. So we need to start at the very beginning level and making sure that everybody has the same understanding about how a board governs, including the Brown Act. So that's what they're skilled at, and that's their expertise, and that's why that they are engaged to work with us in January.
And I can say, Maureen, I'll get this. The nonprofits that I sit on bring in professionals to work with that board and help guide them through the process.
We had a CSBA member last time we came, and we kind of wrote a governance training book together. I think it did provide a small amount of unity for a short period of time, but we didn't. The big piece, which I don't think this is going to provide, and especially not for this cost, is the visioning piece. You know, you can tell people, oh, here's Robert's rules and here's how we do this and that all you want, but we're 5 very distinctive individuals coming from very different places. But I know that we can work together because people can, you know, very different people work together all the time to do different things, but they have to have a commitment to want to do that. And they have to have the sort of leadership guiding them towards, you know, here's why we would want to do that. And being just steamrolled in our first meeting, when 2 people are just steamrolled in the first meeting, in the first step, you know, it's not being very conducive to, like, you know, 5 people working together. So anyways, I'm disappointed that even on a basic level, we weren't asked if that date was available. We weren't asked if the time was available. From the very beginning piece, this is not a inclusive process.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the governance team workshop, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All righty. Okay, we'll move on to item I, Measure U. And I1 is the acceptance of the completed contract for the multi-purpose building roof replacement at Aliso with commercial roofing systems. The completed construction contract amount is $220,512 paid with Measure U. May I get a motion?
I move that we accept the completed. I move that we accept the completed contract, multipurpose building roof replacement at Aliso School with Commercial Roofing Systems, Inc.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I2 is contract with Henriksen Systems for waterline sanitation at Carpenter High School for the new hot and cold water lines. The estimate is for $1,800, paid for with Measure U. I get a motion?
I move that we accept the contract with Henderson Systems for water line sanitation at Carpinteria High School.
Can I get a second?
Ask a question.
Yeah, after you make a second.
I second.
All right. Discussion?
What is the, I understand the importance of sanitizing the lines. What was the original cause of it prior to sanitizing? Do we know?
I don't know, but I'm happy to get the information from the measure.
Was it part of the construction?
I think it's I think it's probably. I mean, I'm assuming. I didn't look at the detail. I think it's the new Gen 7 buildings and the new plumbing in the science buildings.
I'm sure that's what it is, but I don't know.
It's all new plumbing and they.
It's a completely new buildings. Yeah.
They're new buildings, but I will be happy to get the specifics for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I3 is contract with is that K1 or KI? KI for bookcases at Carpinteria Middle School, Catalino, and Carpinteria Family School. The total cost is $9,647.16, paid for with Measure U. Okay. Can I get a motion?
I move to accept the contract with KI for bookcases at Carpinteria Middle School, Catalino Elementary School, and the Carpinteria Family School.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Contract with KI for classroom furniture at Carpinteria High School. Total amount, this is for the new furnishing of the Gen 7 buildings, including science labs and classrooms, as well as a computer lab and classroom. Total cost is $133,318.82.
I move to accept the contract with KI for classroom furniture at Carpinteria High School in the amount of $133,318.82.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yeah, just why don't we get bids with these?
With
Why don't we get bids with these different things? All these things, we don't get bids. We just get the final result.
you mean the we don't get the bid results?
No, we just get the winning bid, and then we get the amount, and we're supposed to pass that.
This bid was a long time ago, K1. They chose K1 last year.
We could ask Dave to.
But still, this could be a separate issue.
They can include the bid results, including the second and third place bidders.
I can get you those results. It was from last year.
I just think it should be standard practice with all of these things that we're.
Just to include it.
Just include it.
So we're getting 3 bids though
Yeah,
from the Measure U team,
follow the
and they're
process.
filing.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the winners by our standards. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Item I5 is the acceptance of completed contract for the front entrance gates at Aliso with Newton Construction and Management. The completed construction contract amount is $95,448, paid for with Measure U. Can I get a motion?
Well,
A motion and a second.
Okay.
I move to accept the acceptance of the completed contract front entrance gates, Aliso, with Newton Construction and Management, Inc. for $95,448.
Okay.
A second?
I'll second.
All right. On August 28th, Aliso's, I wrote this down. Aliso's total gate cost $89,000, and I'm reading here 95 something. Wondering about the 6,000 difference.
In the last board meeting, we accepted a whatever
Change order.
for 2,200, which brings it down to something around 94,000. I don't know why. So, is this a mistake then?
Because on August 28th, 89,000. Then.
So why are we accepting a final contract for such a larger amount, especially considering the amount that was refunded last board meeting?
I believe that the last board meeting you approved change order number 3. There have been more than one.
But it was for less. Like they were giving us back $2,200.
Based on the other 2 change orders. That wasn't from the total original bid.
Right, but
There were other change orders.
So it's more. It was actually more than $97,000.
This is as a result of all of the original bid plus 3 other change orders. This is the net of all of that. This is the final award. You've already approved the original contract and the 3 other change orders.
So just to clarify for the public, this is a single gate at Aliso School that, as of when we toured in October, I believe, did not function, did not close.
That's been rectified.
Hopefully that's been rectified. However, $95,000 for a gate. This is why government gets made fun of in terms of just pork and overspending. And I really, really hope that this is the last
so
of
Maureen,
it that we see in the Measure U.
Maureen, rather than mischaracterize the district falsely, the process was exactly as it's prescribed by law. There was a set of plans and specifications were developed. An open bid was performed. We received more than 3 bids, or 3 or more bids. We selected the lowest responsible bidder and awarded the contract to them. So
actually there was a process before that which I participated in, which was a problem solving. The architects were here and there was a long problem solving session discussing the front entrance at Aliso that didn't necessarily result in a gate. There were lots of discussions, and ultimately part of the Measure U process is the hope that the front entrance to Aliso will actually change to a completely different area, making this no longer the front entrance gate but some sort of side entrance gate. So with that in mind, again, egregious overspending.
And may I remind you that on April 10th, 2018, the board voted to award the contract in the amount of $97,500. So the board already voted for the contract. So once the board votes the contract, then it's up to the district and Measure U team to follow through in the process, which they did. The project is now completed after 3 change orders, and this is the final amount.
okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, item I6 is a contract with Stantec Consulting for flood evaluation at Carpentry High School. The amount, the estimate is $4,000 and shall be paid for with Measure U. Can I get a motion?
I move that a contract with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. for a flood evaluation at Carpinteria High School be approved for the estimate of $4,000.
Can I get a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I just was wondering, it says on the letter from Stantec that that one or more of the buildings may have shifted from the original plan site evaluated. I'm just wondering how one of our buildings shifted.
Well, we'll get a report and we'll find out then. So all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Abstain.
Okay, item I7, purchase and installation of TVs and audiovisual for the high school and the middle school Gen 7 rooms. Being asked to approve this cost in the amount of $75,283 paid for with Measure U.
I make a motion to purchase and install TVs and audiovisual equipment for CHS and CMS Gen 7 rooms for the amount of $75,283.30.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion?
Again, I am all for technology in the classrooms and its use. However, I don't believe in purchasing electronic equipment which goes out of date quickly on a 40-year credit card. So that's essentially what we're doing by using bond money, and I don't think that was the intent of our voters when they approved the Measure U.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Righty. Move on to J1, personnel summary. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to accept the personnel summary.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Alrighty. Board communications. Maureen, would you like to start?
Sure. I want to wish a hearty welcome to our new board members. It's always exciting to have new faces and especially women in our electorate and in our governmental system. We're underrepresented as a group across the country in government, and it's just nice to see you here. The second item I want to talk about is just the prevalence of cannabis in Carpinteria and how it's having a negative effect on so many folks. I happen to live in a neighborhood where a cannabis farm is going in next door to my house. And I discovered that because a shipment of gun safes was accidentally delivered into my driveway. So I don't know how any of you out there might feel about that, but having a shipment of gun safes delivered on one's doorstep is a very discomfiting feeling. I have a 6-year-old daughter. There's 14 children in the neighborhood. So people may not realize that with cannabis farming, because it's an all-cash operation, there have been break-ins in Carpinteria. And I think everybody here is aware of the smell. When I talk to people in Santa Barbara, they say, "Oh, I know Carpinteria. I can smell it when I'm driving by." They smell the pot from the freeway because Villa Real is one of the biggest places. Last year, many of our teachers had the smell of cannabis just stinking up their classrooms at the Carpinteria High School for days. And I understand their feeling of sort of helplessness when these operations move in, because between the state and the county and the Coastal Commission and the city, everyone's sort of figuring it out. And to be fair, Carpinteria is a liberal city. We were behind the approval and the legalization of growing marijuana. I think it was impossible then to know kind of the ramifications of what that would look like. So we are now at this juncture where 12-foot fences are being installed. Armed guards are being seen.
With dogs.
With guard dogs. And I now live next door to one of these properties, and it's scary. It's scary to have gun safes and to think that through. Okay, well, if they have so many gun safes, that means they have so many guns on their property. And if they have that many guns, what are they doing with those guns? And what if something happens, right? There's just a chain link fence in between us. The reason I bring this up is because some people would like to see Carpinteria schools embracing this kind of cash windfall from the cannabis folks. And I do believe, I support our schools. Obviously, I wouldn't be here. And I support creative ways of financing all sorts of different operations. However, I don't think right now is the time to embrace the cannabis industry at this point. I think it's too new. It's too there are too many unknowns. Because it's an all-cash operation, banks won't take the money, So there's they don't know what kind of involvement is dealing with this cash. And in accepting that cash from potentially unknown sources, I think it throws up some legal liability, not to mention the message that it sends to our students. Because we all know that cannabis, while it's fine for adults to use recreationally and it's great for cancer patients and others with medical problems, we know that cannabis on the developing high school brain or adolescent brain is not good, and that it can be addictive and psychologically addictive. So I don't think we're in a desperate situation financially enough to kind of just take money. If a brothel opened up in Carpinteria, I don't think we'd be lining up for that cash. I think there are places and there are times where we can say, thank you, but no thanks, or let's wait and see. So I just want to put my neck out there to say right now that that I do not think, I don't believe that we need to start looking deep and hard at the cannabis growers' pockets. And I think there are other ways to fundraise for our schools.
Okay, Rogelio?
Yes, agree with you, Maureen, and that marijuana production actually it's affecting a lot of people. Even as you are approaching Carpinteria, on Santa Claus or part of the you can smell it. Where I live, actually, let's say like at 2-3 a.m. it hits you. It's right there. And as it is, not even the church is safe. Right, I have a few points. Number one, I think that it's just too bad. It's a shame that 3 board members didn't even discuss the formation of a task force in this community, especially when 75% of students are Hispanic. Probably half of those, or we can even make it 1/3, are lacking English skills. Okay, Monica, I have basically I'm requesting two things from you. One, if you can go back on the tape to December 2017 and report on the organizational committees, how each one of them was set up. Again, December 2017. And if you can, probably was like 2 months ago or so when Cindy Abbott was here, how she agreed that phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of Measure U projects, how they were all gonna be completed with a $90 million bond, with a state aid, and look for this word, grants, scholarships. Grants, scholarships. She mentioned, again, the $90 million bond, the state aid, and grants or scholarships. Okay? Now, I'm just going to give you one example of how to improve our budget. I mean, remember, I've always been saying this. Probably you're getting tired of me, but it doesn't matter. Do not overspend on the legal fees. I'm just going to give you one example. I was there for 16 days. Like I said, I never missed a day, not even a single minute of it. We had an attorney for 15 days. One day couldn't make it. December 2016, and you said, actually we questioned about like a change in attorneys, and you said, well, actually they're giving us a discount. Back then you said attorneys are making $285 an hour, which is a bargain because of anybody else would charge $400. Okay, so but let's make it an even $200 per hour. Let's say it was longer than that. It was longer than 5 hours per day, but let's make it 5. So 70. Let's say 75 hours times 200. That's 15 grand. In the middle of the, we're talking about the class, the bargaining session. In the middle of the bargaining, there was somebody else, a facilitator, So that's why, let's say that he wasn't an attorney, but he had a lot of experience on this. Let's say 100 an hour, 50 hours, that's $5,000. So total, we have 20 grand right there. Can be more, but let's say 20 grand. That's something, that's a lot of money that we didn't have to spend. No other school district actually hires attorneys or facilitators to go through their bargaining sessions. No. We had Paul Cordero back then. We had Service, our interim superintendent. We had Michelin. And then we didn't have a bargaining session with Pursuit, but they were there. They were there, and I would like to ask you, Diana, to show up. I won't be there, but I would like you to show up for those bargaining sessions. Because actually, who's the expert on this? You.
Diana Zapata.
No, you. You're the superintendent. You're the superintendent.
Yes.
You don't talk. No, that's what. Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A way to save money. I mean, who's got the most knowledge? You. Nobody else. And I won't be there, but this is what I would like to ask you. Show up. Show up. I mean, I don't know why you don't, but you should. You should, and I encourage you to. I mean, that's a question that I have. Why not? You would make a good team, a very powerful team, just by being there. That's something that I ask you to do on behalf of our community. And that the goal actually, that we were just talking about layoffs. We were talking about some other, let's tighten the belt. I mean, there's a lot of ways to have a healthy budget, taking good steps, and giving it a good thought of what the district can do on saving money. Because basically, that's what the community wants, to save money, because it's their money. That's what I want the district to do. So I'm a taxpayer. We are all taxpayers, and I would like to the district to use that money wisely, and as well as take care of the money. And lastly, I welcome you, Jamie, Sally, and I hope that, like I say, we can all get along. Thank you.
Great. Jamie?
Well, just real fast, thank you guys for embracing me up here. I'm looking forward to working with everybody. I do just want to say, it's going to, obviously, we're not going to agree on everything, but I really want all to have mutual respect for everybody. Just because I don't agree with one another doesn't mean that I still don't like you guys, or that I'm necessarily feel that you're wrong versus I'm wrong. It's just, a matter of opinion for most things, of course. And I'm just really happy to work with all of you guys and to show to the carpenter community that we are a community, which is how we display ourselves up here, I think is really important, to not constantly be at each other's backs. And so I just look forward to all of us working together. I think the governance workshop will be great for us to kind of team build and move on with that. And I'm excited to be here. So thank
Great,
you.
Thanks. Sally?
I just want to thank everybody as well. It's a real privilege and honor, after all these years being in education, that I'm actually sitting on this Carpinteria board, representing the students and the parents of all the district, as well as the educators. So I'm very pleased to be here and look forward to working with everyone.
Great. Well, I just, once again, like to welcome both of you. I'm looking forward to a productive year. And everybody have a Merry Christmas, because we're not going to see each other till next year. So, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Do we have some future agenda items to add?
We can do that. We have I just wanted to go down our for the calendar. We have wanted to announce the dates for budget study, and that would be January 29th, Tuesday at 5:30 here in the City Hall. So it'll be January 29th, February 19th, March 19th, and April 30th, all at 5:30 on Tuesdays here in City Hall. And those are all going to teach us about the budget and where we're going. As far as future agenda items, would you like to add some, Maureen?
Yeah, and I had a point of order about the agenda. I don't know, maybe this needs to be agendized, but just a question about the agenda, which is when we do the vote, is it typically alphabetical that we take that vote?
The vote on?
When it's a roll call vote, isn't it typically alphabetical? And also, should we be alphabetical here? Just
I don't think necessarily.
Because we have been in the past, and the roll call has been alphabetical too. Anyways, two thoughts. And then the other thing is a point of order on the agenda, and maybe this needs to be agendized, but it really would be helpful to see what kind of vote was needed for each thing, meaning roll call, whatever. Also, some of the votes require a 2/3 majority, and there are different types of votes that are needed. I've seen in other agendas they list what type of vote is, and also if action is needed, not action is needed, and what type of vote. It's just it's kind of a clerical.
Those are actually
okay, great.
In our
so then, just the type of
agenda.
vote that's needed would be helpful, just for us to see.
Sure, we can add that to the staff report.
And then I did have some future agenda items. I've kind of been holding on to them because some of them have come up, which is like the Measure U thing. That's great. That's coming up. We also have in our board policies that agenda items aren't supposed to just sit on the agenda. They're supposed to be taken up within 2 months. So I don't know who's in charge of that, but just maybe we need to put a date next to them when they appear.
Well, I had agenda items sitting on there for years.
Right, but our board policy states that they need to be taken up within 2 months. So we've been out of compliance with those policies.
Well, I think certain things we have to wait for availability of presenters as well.
So the board policy that's for board policy. So board compensation and benefits is something that I discovered last year hadn't been completely solved. So I believe that needs to be taken up again. And then we've mentioned this, but it's never been formally added, which is hiring a district translator, or at least having a translator for school board meetings. And the last, I think, because it keeps getting brought up, it should be something that's agendized, which is an analysis of our legal fees and a spreadsheet. Some sort of, we've never heard the process around how they get hired, how they get fired, why they're used, why we choose which ones they use. I think having that brought to our attention would be really helpful.
So we do have a translator at the board meeting, and that's Monica, and we have the translation devices. So that was put in place at the beginning of the school year, so that any public that needs translation, it is available at the board meeting.
Well, we also don't translate our agenda. I mean, I don't want to get into a discussion of this. I believe that we need a specific person just to do translation, not that's because if someone's doing translation, they can't also be taking notes for the meeting. It's just not possible. So that's why I'd like to see that on there.
Yeah,
there's also
I'd just
things
like to remind you we had that in the past, and we rarely did we have. I mean, we were releasing that person early because there was no one here.
So I don't want to get into a discussion of it right now, obviously, but it's.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Andy.